Assalamualaikum and have a nice day everyone. First of all, let me introduce myself first. I'm Norasilah binti Abdul majid. Now I'm working in at Public Work Department headquarters. Allow me to present my study title of my study. Effect the shortage of finance staff on workload and performance in Public Work Department headquarters. Firstly, let me explain about the background of the study. Public Work Department is department under the Ministry Work Department. As we know, JKR carries out activities developing and implementing various projects such as the A-base project, for example, upgrading work at CDM Subang Airport, then land such as repairing road for public user, maritime such as upgrading a jetty. Following this work, they are support staff who carry out payment activities to launch the process. This is what is linked to the research title this time, where to make payment within the set time is very difficult considering the lack of staff or shortage staff. And then as at the beginning of the introduction earlier, the financial unit is involved in the payment of three main project category, namely maritime, air and land. This is called what is said to be the statement of the problem that threaten the payment process at the financial unit. In the financial unit, all payment must follow the circular that has been outlined, which is payment within 14 days from the date of the bill. The issue is staff constraint, where it is difficult to get replacement at the same time. Staff exchange on the basis of welfare, safety issues, as well as staff who continue study. And government policy also play a role in the lack of staff or shortage, which is the issue policy that want to reduce size of the staff. For example, if the position is not fulfilled within 2 years, the position will be terminated. The warrant will revoke. Next, research question based on objective research. First, what are the retirement due to that affect the workload of staff at the headquarters Public Work Department? Yes, of course, because retirement not the same as a normal exchange where staff will be replaced. For this process, the position will be replaced by another officer with another work allowance. Secondly, what are the relationship of exchange staff that affect the workload of staff at the headquarters of the Public Work Departments? The relationship is closely related to the researcher point of view because the exchange that often occurs in this Public Work Department is an exchange without a substitute. This exchange is concerned with welfare and safety issues, for example, so the position will decrease and make the workload on the existing staff. Secondly, what are the relationship of exchange staff that affect the workload of staff at the headquarters of the Public Work Department? This relationship is actually closely related to the researcher point of view because the exchange that often occurs in this Public Work Department is an exchange without a substitute. This exchange is concerned with the welfare and safety issues. For example, so the position will decrease and make the workload on the existing staff. And thirdly, what is the relationship of shortage staff policy governments to the performance of the finance division of the Public Work Department headquarters? Yes, this question is more related to all civil servants due to the government's effort to reduce the size of the post by not filling vacancies that exist 2 years. Then the government to incomplete filling only 90%. Okay, so now the objective of this study to find out the causes of workload. Among them, retirement, exchange staff, and government policies that affect the performance of financial unit. For retirement, want to identify right or wrong this relationship with workload, same as to exchange staff and government policy. Alright, this is the next slide. This is a conceptual framework. The researcher made a recommendation about factors related to retirement, staff exchange, and policy government towards workload. Based on table from slide, researcher tried to build a relationship between independent variable and dependent variable to conduct research. So the next slide, we will explain about the research finding from this conceptual framework. Next, research method. Researcher used quantitative design in research design, while the analysis unit focus on the staff in the finance unit. As many as 102 sample size people will get feedback in the questionnaire. Meanwhile, random sampling technique is carried out and use linked rating where answer are given in the form rating 1 until 5, which mean 1 for the most disagree answer and 5 is strongly agree. After that, the data collection consists 5 sections, which is a demography, give information about gender, age, position, and so on. Next, section B is related to independent variable, namely retirement. Question about retirement are asked in for this section, while section C and D is each explain about staff exchange and government policy, and finally the dependent variable, which is the workload. And finally, the most important method to know the result of this study is data analysis. The researcher used descriptive analysis, mean and standard deviation, percent correlation, and multi-regression. So finding referring to the slide, you can see all the finding through the frequency and percentage demographic section from the questionnaire. We take an example for gender frequency. We can see that the female of staff exceed the male staff in the study, which is 57.8%. This shows the probability of more female staff. Another example can be seen is the average age between 31 to 40 years in the financial unit, which 56.9%. According to this frequency, the probability of changing staff is very high, because at this age the staff has stabilized and built their own life, such as buying a house in the village and potential moving to their hometowns. From the main finding that we can see is the relationship between independent variable and independent variable. For this result, percent correlation, because the sample size is more than 100, in addition to response score from linked rating 1 until 5, which individual item or more clearly some score that have been added up. The hypothesis for objective one is to identify retirement effect on workload. H2 accepted and H1 rejected because there is no strain of retirement effect on workload, as well as exchange staff also does not have a strong relationship to explain that the effect of exchange staff on workload. But for the government policy, yes, it gives a clear relationship where to H4 reject and H1 accepted. This gives the impression to the researcher that government policy has more impact on the organization. Example, in reducing the size of civil servant. For the main finding that we can see is the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. For this result, we use percent correlation because the sample size is more than 100. In addition to the response score from linked item, which individual item or more clearly sum up some score that have been added up. The hypothesis for objective 1 is to identify retirement effect on workload. H1 accepted and H1 rejected because there is a relationship of retirement effect on workload, as well as exchange staff also has a strong relationship to explain that the effect of exchange staff on workload. But the government policy, there is no relationship where HO reject and H1 accepted. This gives the impression to the researcher that retirement and exchange staff has more impact on the organization. Examples of this staff without replacement. Alright. From implication this study, firstly good for the organization because able to make caliber staff, work not delay, get the better achievement. Secondly, motivation for staff and solve the problem or staff who have a workload and get new spirit and able to balance life and work. So finally, the department mission and vision is achieved by making payment within the specific time. However, this study also has a limitation among time constraint because in addition to studying, I also have a full-time job. At the same time, need to divide time with family, study and work. In addition, information is also limited since the study need to be completed in a short time and only little information is available I get. However, if more time is given, we may get more information. Besides that, the questionnaire is also limited because it only use a Google form instead of the interview that can be done. So lastly, to sum up, as shown in this research, retirement and staff exchange factor are the factor that most affect workload. This study is derived from three research objectives, with the first objective being to investigate the relationship between retirement and workload. The second objective is to investigate the relationship between exchange staff and workload. Finally, the third objective is to investigate the relationship between government policy and workload. Although the percent value is considered weak, but this factor is closest and has a strong relationship with the dependent variable. The result of the p-value is positive, showing that the retirement and exchange staff factor has a relationship with the dependent variable, which is workload. When discussing retirement and staff exchange, everyone know it is a factor in the workload in their absence, and this affect the performance of individual in particular as well as the department in general. Thank you.